Today we are going to talk about Marquise Hollywood Brown's feet. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today we're going to talk about Marquise Hollywood Brown's foot because, well, apparently nobody wants to talk about anything else like, the Heisman Trophy winner and perhaps maybe whether or not, I don't know, Oklahoma can beat Alabama. I get that Hollywood's foot is a big deal because he's the number one wide receiver on the team, 75 catches for over 1,300 yards, but I'm taking my P's and Q's from Lincoln Riley on this one. One, if Marquise can't go, you got lots of guys that can, man. I think it's a slight to the other guys on the team, quite honestly, because there were games for which Hollywood was not 100%. Now, you would much rather have Hollywood out there than not. See West Virginia, 11 catches for 243 yards. And you can go back to 2017, where if you don't get that 260-plus yard game out of him in the Bedlam rivalry, yeah, that one goes a little differently as well. But CeeDee Lamb is really, really, really good at his job, and his job is catching passes. You can count on that guy to be healthy, to be out there running routes, and quite honestly, because of his height, because of the size of his hands, because of his ups, and because of his speed, frankly, his upside is way more than Hollywood Brown's. Also, let us not forget, you got Charleston Rambo, who is showing up all of a sudden as the guy who is playing in that position when Hollywood Brown can't go. So you got a young guy who you're going to depend on quite a bit in 2019 because Hollywood Brown's going to go in the first round of the NFL draft no matter what the state of his foot is. And you also are going to want to know that Charleston Rambo is continuing to come on because as much as we seem to take these wide receivers for granted, we shouldn't. They're very, very good at their jobs. I know there's a lot of folks that are down on Michael Jones this year because a lot of folks expected that guy to show out as soon as he got to OU, and you saw a lot of good things out of him in 2017, particularly playing in the slot. But since making the move to outside receiver, you've nary seen hide nor a hair of him, and that's because he's playing behind a bunch of really great receivers, and not just Hollywood Brown and CeeDee Lamb, but also Charleston Rambo and also A.D. Miller, and we can continue to go on, and that's kind of the cool thing about Oklahoma is, yes, I've spoken a lot about Kyler Murray, and I will continue to do so, and we've talked a lot about Trey Sermon at running back, we've talked a lot about Kennedy Brooks at running back, but when we're talking about the other skill positions, I feel like we hit Lee Morris a lot because that dude's been a touchdown machine. And Grant Calcaterra seemed like he was next in 2017 following the Mackey Award winner, which was the best tight end in football in Mark Andrews. So you had lots of wide receivers that you already thought were going to be good, some of which have turned out to be great in 2018. But we haven't had a lot to say about is Nick Basquin. And that guy, we didn't see much of him until he showed up big time in the Big 12 championship game. So that's another guy for which you can depend on to make plays. You also got guys behind him, like Miles Tees. Booker T, stand up. Because of Miles Tees and Josh Jacobs of Alabama, Tulsa TPS schools are going to be well represented in the Orange Bowl, particularly North Tulsa, my side of the town. I love it. What's up? Miles Tees on one side, Josh Jacobs on the other. Somebody is going to be playing a national championship that went to high school at Tulsa Public Schools. That's what's up. And you'll continue to hear me get hype about that because that's where I'm from. I love it. But also, Jaquaylin Crawford, haven't seen a whole lot of him. You saw a little bit of Jalen Robinson to start the season, but he's kind of not been seen and nobody said anything about him. I get that Marquise Brown is the number one wide receiver, but whether or not he's ready to go or not, Lincoln Riley's like, yo, has anybody been paying attention to the offense and know that it's not even just that it's Kyler, it's that it's everybody. It's that you have an All-American, yet two All-Americans, actually, on the offensive line for Oklahoma. AP All-Americans in Cody Ford and Drew Samia to go along with Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown as your 4 AP All-Americans, which means they had the same number of All-Americans at Oklahoma as they did at Clemson. And the only team that had more than Clemson or Oklahoma on the AP All-America teams was Alabama, which, by the way, was just mopping up those awards. Those boys are stout, and we'll get into that in a bit. But if you're looking at the AP All-America list, you're going, hey, does anybody see that it's not just that we can throw the ball deep to that one guy. We can throw it all over the field. We can run it when we want to because the offensive line is so good. Also, peep game, while Oklahoma had 4 AP All-Americans, you know how many Texas had? 0! Goose egg. Because Tom Herman wasn't even accurate in his assessment in Big 12 Media Days when he was asked point blank, how many elite players do you have on this Texas squad? And he said, some. That quote will live in infamy, like a lot of the quotes that Tom Herman has put out in 2018. Also, Texas might not have the 2 best wide receivers on their team returning next year because those guys might go into the NFL draft. L.J. Humphrey and Colin Johnson going to get some hard looks. And I would not be shocked to hear that they go because that's just the thing that you do at Texas. You don't really stick it out for 4 years because, well, number one, you want to go get paid just as soon as you can get paid. And I don't begrudge anybody that. Number two, you've heard over and over again how some of those guys just don't like playing for that dude. Like, since he came in, I'm going to be real interested to see what his first senior class looks like, that he makes it through 4 years as Texas's head coach, and what they have to say about him and what he believes about that group and what we all have to say about that group and how they produced or not produced. I think gonna really have to start paying attention to Texas when these numbers are 0 for AP All-America and these numbers for Big 12 championships are 0, and they're gonna play in their first big-time bowl game in quite some time against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, and ain't a whole lot of people gonna pick Sam Harji Ellinger against Kirby Smart's defense, and particularly when Georgia's offense is better this year than it was last year, and they had Nick Chubb and Sony Michel in the backfield. That's bonkers. But low-key, DeAndre Swift is going to be a Heisman candidate all of next year. I mean, that dude's good. And Evander Holyfield's kid, he can also play a little football. And if Jake Fromm is the guy, he's going to be a Heisman candidate. But you know what? They got this 5-star dude back there named Justin Fields who can absolutely play some football. But to get back to Oklahoma and Marquise Brown, the news that has been reported by Brandon Drum at OUinsider.com is that, yes, there was some tweaking, and yes, you want that dude to be okay, but all signs point to he's going to play. Now, whether or not he's 100%, that's up for debate, right? And we all know that ankles and feet are just tricky, right? Because in football, any injury can be a huge injury. But all signs point to Hollywood Brown is not going to miss an opportunity to play in what will be the biggest game of his career, especially when that game is 10 minutes from where he grew up, Hollywood, Florida, to Miami. I mean, yeah, I would say that you probably gonna have to actually cut the dude's foot off for him not to play. I really do believe that despite what anybody's gonna say and the chatter that you might hear, I'd be shocked to see that number 5 isn't out there running routes at least a little bit. Maybe as a decoy, maybe hobbled a bit, but I doubt it because that'd be a full month that he's had to recover. That'd be a full month of perhaps just being held out and saying, yo, just go get treatment. We know what you can do. We know you know the offense. We know you don't need the reps. We need you healthy. So if he's allowed to heal, and he will be allowed to heal, I expect to see the number 1 wide receiver for Oklahoma be out there and see him pad his stats with maybe a 200-yard game, perhaps, maybe. It'd be nice to get a 200-yard game out of him and CD because I can't see you losing that game if both of those guys were over 200 yards. But also, I think Kyler Murray is going to make it possible for Hollywood Brown to get one-on-one coverage against some of these great Alabama defensive backs. But more for Hollywood Brown and his potential as a pro, you would love to get some outstanding tape against these SEC caliber cornerbacks, right? You'd love to be able to moss some of these dudes so that there is no ifs, ands, or buts about whether or not you can play at the NFL, because folks are going to ding you for your height, folks are going to ding you for your weight, but they're not going to be able to ding you for your size or what is on film. That's the thing that happened with Orlando Brown. Remember, he got dinged for a 40-yard dash because, offensive linemen are in the business of running 40 yards in a straight line. With Hollywood Brown, he's going to be the subject of much criticism because of how many bench press reps he puts up or how little he is. But little dudes are coming to rule the NFL at wide receiver because the game is about space and the game is about speed, and Hollywood Brown can get separation. That means he can work in space and he can absolutely outrun you. All right, that's it for me. Deuce.